Hi folks, and welcome to Cooking According to Eddie, and today I'm going to show you how to make a basic tomato sauce which can be a base for all kinds of dishes: curries, bolognese, chili, pasta sauces, all kinds. For this we are going to need some equipment, one knife with a good length blade and also a good flat bit on it as well, you'll see why in a moment, chopping board, green for vegetables and slightly melted from the hob, that is optional. There's also a big pan, which you'll see later, but you need to pick a pan that's suitable to the size that you're going for. You'll also need cooking oil, onions, I've got 2, chopped tomatoes, I've got 4 cans, cloves of garlic, I've got 4 cloves of garlic, get my teeth around that, and some black pepper. Now the ratio I tend to go for, 1 tin of chopped tomatoes, 1 clove of garlic to half an onion. And that seems to work pretty well, but you can adapt it to taste. So we're going to start by preparing the ingredients. Start with some garlic. Now if you've got a garlic crusher, that's very handy, but sometimes you won't. So if you've got a knife with a good flat blade to it, you can just gently crush it. There you go, you can hear it just gently breaking there. Nip off each end, and the garlic will peel relatively easily. Then, there's various ways of doing it. You can cut the garlic straight down one way, or the other way, not including your fingers, or both ways, but either way, what you want to do is cut the garlic and then crush it. So I'm going to go for just straight, very thin slivers. I've got a very sharp knife here. Sharp knives are actually safer than blunt knives, because a sharp knife you don't have to put as much pressure on, whereas a blunt knife you have to put a load of pressure on, and if you do shove it into your hand, it's going to go in further and it's going to make a bigger wound as well, which we don't want to happen. So having done that, I'm just going to chop it a little bit further. Actually, I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to go for some slightly smaller pieces, trying to keep my fingers out of the way. There we go. That's enough, because it'll all cook down, and then just squeeze it with the knife. Hey presto, some crushed garlic. I'll deal with that later. The onions, how to cut them? Well, take the top and the bottom off. Remember, this is just how I do it. There are different methods out there. I've got like a designated space where I'm shoving all this into, by the way. You can have a plate or a bowl, that can be quite helpful. And then sometimes the onions will peel relatively easily and sometimes they won't. I'm going to see if this one will peel. Yeah, it's doing a reasonable job, but it might be easier if I just cut it down the middle. There we go. So let's take half an onion, and we need it to be in the half anyway, because a half onion is what we need to chop it. So I'm just going to take all that skin off, and there's just a little bit of the flesh which is looking a bit knocked about, so there we go. Now one end has got this sort of, you'll be able to see, like rooty bit on it, and one end doesn't. If you turn the onion so that the non-rooty end is pointing towards you, and then cut about just a millimetre or 2 off the end with the root on it, and swing the knife back like that, it'll all be attached at this end, and it sort of comes out like a fan. In fact, I'm going to go a bit smaller, so I'm going to dig in a bit there. Now why am I doing this? Because onions can fall apart very easily, and then it makes them a real pain to try and cut, so I'm doing this to try and keep them together for as long as possible. See, at this point they're all still attached down the bottom here, and now I can just gently, with this nice sharp knife, cut some nice fine chunks of onion. For this particular sauce, I like to go with nice fine bits of onion. Stir fries and such, I quite like big strips of onion, but we'll save that for another video, assuming I'll make another video, depending on how this cookery goes. Oh, I can feel the onions now. Oh, right. So, I'm cutting all the way down to the ends, and you can see because I left them all attached at this end, it's actually quite easy to chop them, take them off, just trim the last bits, and there you are. That's half an onion and a clove of garlic. And with one chopped tomato tin, that'll be enough for a meal. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a batch of this stuff. I'm going to cook it up and I'll freeze it, and then I can put it into all kinds of other meals. Well, actually, I won't be freezing it. I'm going to be making a load of meals, and I'll be showing you how to make each one. Okay, so that's all the onions and garlic chopped and ready to go. I've had this pan on for a bit. I've had it at quite a low setting. This goes up to 11, like all good things, of course. And I've had it on about 5 for 10 minutes or so, and that is enough to get it warmed up. So, take a little bit of onion, let's just drop it into the oil. The amount of oil, I've gone for 2 breakfast cereal spoons of oil per can of chopped tomatoes. So there's 8 in there. Seems like quite a bit, but trust me, you'll need it. So, okay, it's just gently sizzling. If it really roars, that's too much. So just a gentle sizzle, that's good. So I'm going to chuck all the onions, these are onions, and garlic in there. Bring the heat down and let them cook for perhaps 10 or 15 minutes. Keep stirring them in the process. So, there we go. Now if you've got non-stick pans, make sure that you use plastic, wood or silicone when you're stirring them. So something like this. This isn't a non-stick pan. Oh, I can smell the onions and the garlic already, that's lovely. Right, so I'm going to bring that heat down to like a really low heat. It would be like 1 on a normal electric hob, or the gas, it would be as low as you can possibly get it. We're trying to keep it really low and slow. It's going to be 10 to 15 minutes. Now there is a quick way of doing onions and garlic as well, but I'm going to show you the really good way first. So, lost a bit. There we go. So, lid on, down nice and low. So the quick way, if you're a bit short on time, is to ramp the heat up, not to full, but quite high. So rather than being up around max, about 11 on this, get it up nice and high. Get the oil hot, onions in. Wait till they start to pick up with the colour. Won't take too long. Keep them stirring. You're essentially stir frying them. And then at the very last minute, put the garlic in separately. And I'm talking like 5 seconds, 5 or 10 seconds. Just whip the garlic round until you can start to smell it. And at the point that you can smell it cooking, in with your chopped tomatoes. But for this, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, stirring every now and again with the lid on, and we'll come back to it. Okay, so they've had 15 minutes. I've stirred regularly. I'm now going to turn the heat up quite a bit. 10, so that's like a moderate high heat. Get the lid off. Oh, that smells good. So you can see they're quite white. There's a bit of liquid coming off them. What we're going to do is we're going to get them going, try and get some colour into them. Just a little bit of colour. Doesn't have to be much. But just get the heat up and get a little bit of brown going, because the brown is like where the sugars start to caramelise. Gives the onions the sweetness. Now you don't want to go too far with that. They literally just have to be starting to go brown. So it's probably going to be a couple of minutes before this happens. Something I forgot to mention is if you're making a curry, it's a good idea to get the best flavour to add the ginger in with the onions and with the garlic. I'll be doing it slightly differently because I'm doing this in terms of making the sauce and then adding things. But if you were doing a specific curry, you'd add the ginger in to begin with. Okay, you might be able to see just a slight difference in colour and hear a slight difference in sound. Starting to sizzle a little bit now. Now that sizzle tells me that most of the fluid has now gone from the onions. So we're down to sort of, oil They're not quite sticking, but they're becoming a bit more resistant on the bottom of the pan. So, and they're just starting to go a little tiny bit, it's almost imperceptible, but a tiny bit brown. So, I'm going to give it a shake. There we go. And a scoop. So the shake is just to make sure they all settle down towards the bottom. Spin it round, because there's always onion on the back of the pan that you don't see. There we go. Oops, that's why this is all scratched up, because I'm clumsy. So, keeping the heat on high. Chopped tomatoes. We want to get these nice and warm, nice and quick. Now, I like to just leave them upended like that for a bit to let all the stuff drain in, but as it's an example video, I'm not going to do that. Oh, sponsorship moment there. Yeah, maybe I'll get a sponsorship deal yet. Anyway, I'm going to repeat the same process with all the tomatoes, but I'm going to just stir it around once or twice to mix it in, because I want the tomatoes to get up to temperature quite quickly. Alright, there we go, they're just starting to bubble, that's good. Right, so I'm going to do the same with all 4 cans, well, 3 remaining. Okay, so that's all 4 cans in. I'm now going to put a little bit of black pepper in, 4 cans, so I reckon 12 to 16 turns, 3 or 4 per can of tomatoes. That's how I like it. Obviously do it your own way. So, I'm going to stir it, make sure everything is all nicely mixed. Spin the pan. Yeah, okay. We're going to wait for the mixture to start to bubble. Now, when it comes to cheap chopped tomatoes or more expensive chopped tomatoes, is there a real difference in flavour? Not noticeably. The main difference is that cheaper chopped tomatoes tend to be waterier. It doesn't matter too much, because what we're going to do is we're going to bring this up to the point where it's bubbling, and bubbling quite quickly, then turn the heat down, and we're just going to leave it until the sauce gets to a point where you can run a spoon down it, like that, and it creates a trench that doesn't suddenly fill with more liquid. It's going to become thick. At that point, I'm happy that it's done. So we just need to wait, and if it's waterier, so be it, because you just have to cook it a bit longer. But personally, I would get it to that thickness regardless of whatever tomatoes you've used. Probably best to do a little test here as well, taste test, let's see. Molto bene. Okay, it's just starting to bubble, so I'm going to stir. Right, give it a mix. And you can hear it's not bubbling anymore. Okay, that's fine. It's still heating up. It's going to take a long time for this big tub to heat up, so that's fine. But I will take this opportunity to just have a bit of a dig around at the bottom, make sure nothing's sticking. Really is important. Okay, you have got to keep stirring it. Very important to keep stirring it, because you don't want it to stick, but also you want to mix that heat around. The idea is to try and cook this evenly. So we wait for it to bubble, which is starting to do again now. And once it's bubbled up, we'll stir it again, spin the pan, make sure everything's in. And we'll just do that until the point where I can stir it and it immediately is bubbling again. So, let's give it another stir. Oh, splashed it everywhere. Never mind. There we go, spin the pan. Yep, the sauce on the sides. Alright, it's starting to rumble a bit more now, which means that the heat is spreading all the way through. So it's getting better. You feel it sticking on the bottom again. Okay, so stir, twist, repeat. We're starting to get up to temperature now. You'll have also noticed that I've been wiping the surfaces down between every segment. I do this quite a lot anyway, just wipe down the surfaces as I go. Partly because of that, but also because it's just easier than trying to deal with it all at the end. This stuff bakes on, it becomes a real pain to deal with, so I'd rather deal with it sooner rather than later. There, see, it's starting to bubble again. We're getting close. Now, something that's to be said for this is it does take time, particularly if you're doing it in a large batch like this. But, although it's time intensive, it is actually quite cheap and quite nutritious. Onions, the amount of onions that I bought came to less than 50p in terms of weight. Chopped tomatoes, you can get a can for 30p. Garlic's cheap, a bulb's about 20p. So you can make this, and it's got a lot of nutrition in it. It tastes good, and it'll feed you for quite a long time, so it's great student food. You just have to put time into it. And you know what, you can spend that time in the kitchen with other people, or not, as the case may be. You can listen to music, you can chat with your friends. You know, think about the countries where you might see this happening, like Italy and stuff, very family orientated. You'd have everyone in the kitchen, you'd be talking, you'd be laughing. Right, yeah, we're definitely getting there now. So, look, here we are. See if I spin and leave it now. There, straight away the bubbles are back. So, it's time to just leave it to stew. So I'm going to bring the heat down quite low. I'm going to go for about 5. You want to get it really low because you don't want it to burn on the bottom. Still going to be checking it maybe every 5 minutes, just to make sure. And we're going to just boil it down, well, simmer it down. You should get it to a point where it's only just bubbling. And you'll start to see the bubbles die away, and there's a lot of heat that's held in there. The next time you'll see the bubbles will be dying away. It'll just be gently sort of bumping up and down. And that's what we're aiming for. So we'll keep cooking and see what this looks like in, well, however long it takes. Alright. So let's do the channel test. Dig a little channel in it, and it's not immediately filling up with water. Well, fluid. That means it's pretty much there, pretty much done. I'm going to give it a taste. See, a taste and a test, a taste at the same time, and we'll see how it's getting on. Okay, yeah, that's good. I mean, for me, I'd put some more pepper in. I'm not adding salt at this point because quite a few of the things that I'm going to add will have some salt in them. So turn the heat off and just let it cool down naturally. The trick to this now, to get it tasting really good, is to leave it overnight. Stick it in the fridge once it's cooled down, leave it overnight, and by the time you cook with it 24 hours later, or whatever, it'll taste amazing. So, now I've made the sauce, we need to have a think about what sort of things could go with it. What kind of dishes, and I'm going to give you some examples, but there are plenty of other things as well. Any questions, obviously let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and see you next time.